Yeah, I see.
We're off, Simon. So I'm those of you that on my side of my network. I'm obviously I'm Rich Waterman. I'm a business coach, mentor, and speaker. Uh, One of the best things about me doing Tony Robbins stuff is that I meet amazing people through that journey with a lot of skill, but more importantly, a huge heart. And that's one of my friends is with me today, which is Simon Scott. And Simon, you had a good idea about what we should get together and chew the fat a little bit about what's going on currently and how to help businesses.
That's true, Rich. At the moment, there's a lot of uncertainty. There's a lot of challenges to people. The way we're doing business needs to change in order to adapt to the environment. Not every business needs to close down. Some can adapt and change the way they do things. I believe that after this is all said and done, that we'll end up with a lot of businesses finding innovations during this period, and they'll be the new norm for how that business is conducted.
Yeah, 100%. It's I think a lot of my clients, they're seeing an opportunity to maybe grow a part of their business that maybe they just hadn't got round to before, and like now they obviously with a lot of people at home and considering, for example, how to deliver their services online. It's actually enabling them to grow an arm of their business. As you said, when things start to get back to normal, then they'll have an extra way of delivering what they do to their customers. So it's actually bizarrely a gift for some people in many ways if they can see that gift.
And in other cases, it's time to work on your business because you can't do what you were normally doing. We have to be smart, I suppose, is the right word about the way we go about doing business now, and ask the right questions. What business am I in? What business am I really in? And what am I doing to serve the customers and the base that I have? Am I in the right business for me? It's a great opportunity to ask some questions and come up with some great answers.
Yes, I smack on, I agree with that. It's like often we get so pulled into doing our business, like delivering our business, we don't get the opportunity, do we, to come up a level and look down and actually take in feedback about what's going on. And as you said, just go back to the core fundamentals of we're in a business. I can see you got our friend Keith Cunningham's book up behind you there, Keith's the Vault.
Oh, yeah.
And Keith just says really simply, like, find out what people want, go and get it and give it to them.
Yeah. Yep.
And for me, that's a great philosophy to go back to in these current times, is really go back, as you say, what business I'm in, what business am I really in? How am I serving my customers?
What business do I need to be? What business do I need to be?
Yeah.
And, I've been in importing for the last 20 years. I've been in hospitality before that. I've been in customer service. I've been in automotive. I've been in fashion.
Wow.
There's a broad base of business that you draw from over your lifetime, as well as your associations and your clubs and the free service you give, and you learn patterns, and patterns exist in no matter what the business, no matter what the industry, patterns exist. And we'll go back to Keith for a minute, where he introduced us to the life cycle of a business, if you recall, where the business can be in its, that's just like a child. It grows through from birth to old age. Industries are the same. What's the cycle of the industry? What's the age of the industry we're in at the moment? And industries come and go. We have plenty of examples of that. Radio Shack is one that used to be the most popular retail store and no longer exists. Then you go through the video era and the Blockbuster. It all evolves and changes as we learn and we grow and new things become available. So it's exciting times if we want it to be that. And again, coming back to the questions of what business am I in, what business am I really in, and what business do I need to be in, can really help us set ourselves up for the future.
Yeah, I totally agree with that, Simon. It's like, and as you said earlier on in the call, that I'm seeing kind of three types of business right now. The first being like, do you know what, you're in the wrong business. Your ladder's up against the wrong wall, and depending on, doesn't matter how much effort you throw at it, you're trying to win a losing game. And some people, you know what, it was you may have been playing this sort of losing game for months and years to come, but actually the coronavirus has given you an opportunity to go, actually, do you know what? I'm in the wrong game here. I need to close that down and start something else. I think the third category, I'll come back to the second one in a minute. The third one is actually some businesses that have tremendous opportunity right now, and they just need to work out a way how to scale and actually meet a current demand, but maybe in a flexible way, because that current demand might be temporary, but they've actually got a window of opportunity right now to actually make an awful lot of money. Like, for example, we're on Zoom at the moment, right? So they've had to massively increase their capacity to cope for that demand. Now, I think realistically, after this has all died down, I think people will still do more of this stuff. So they're in good shape anyway. I think the main category is that middle category that we've talked about, which is businesses that are doing services and products that still work in the current environment, but they might need to think about a little bit more about how do I just subtly adjust or sometimes even pivot into something which is exactly what your customers need right now, as opposed to the way you've been doing it in the past. And for a lot of businesses out there that I've been in contact with, it's, do you know what? When the economy's doing pretty well, you don't have to be great at business to make a decent amount of money. But
Sure.
What we're finding out now is where things get a bit more difficult. And it's interesting in the UK, like last week was quite difficult to engage a lot of business owners because it was so disrupting, they couldn't think straight. Whereas now, a week on, people are starting to actually get their feet under themselves a little bit and understand what is happening, adjusting to a different routine. And as you said, it's just finding a different way of doing business. And I think for me, what I'm seeing in the UK is that's kind of like the major category of business is what you're doing will work. You just got to sometimes find a different way of doing it or a subtly different flavor on it to start to thrive again. And it's just finding that place for yourself.
Nothing truer than when the market's good, that we grow fat and our businesses are not as efficient as they could be, and you trim that down in lean times, and it forces us to make decisions, forces us to think about business in a different way to when things are good. When things are good, we don't like to focus on the 1%, but the 1%, 1% make 10%, and businesses are built in 1%. But they fall apart in chunks of 5% and 10%. And we've got to capture this now. We've got to go back to the core of why are we in business? What's the purpose of our business? Who are we serving? Who's our real customer? What does our real customer look like? How can we deliver to that customer now in this environment and get closer to their need? Because has their need shifted, or is the product no longer relevant? How do we get a product that's relevant?
Yeah. It's interesting on the coaching side of things. My ideal client used to be someone with the sort of what I call very expansive thought. They're looking to move into possibility potential because that's it's an exciting thing to plan and implement. Whereas now, just being realistic, I've got a number of people approaching me, both as businesses but also individually, that are in forms of pain. So it could be anxiety, worry, can be some are depressed, sad. And so you almost have to meet them there and say, okay, let me help you resolve that so you can think more clearly. And then we can then move into, okay, now what do you want to create? Now do you want to do? So it's almost like finding my business is almost like a pre-stage to the main stage, which is meeting where they're at, help them deal with that. And then we can talk about what do you actually want to do with your life and your business. So I very much agree with your sentiments there. It's, what's the general sentiment in Australia like in terms of people you've been talking to? What's been showing up?
Okay, well, I like where we've just arrived, because this is mainly the purpose of the call is for us to share knowledge and help people, and to let everyone know that it's not all as bad as it could be, and it doesn't mean that it's going to be better than it is now. It's an opportunity to discuss what else you could do in your business, or what else we can do to give ourselves more certainty, because uncertainty just clouds judgment. When you bring emotion into a decision, the emotion changes the facts, or the way that we can view clearly what the decision's about. So if we've got fear as a height of emotion, and we're trying to make decisions, it affects that decision-making process, and we lose the clarity, or we may miss an opportunity. And as you were just saying earlier, when we talk to somebody, we can give them the right advice, but they're not ready to hear it because they're in the state that they're in. So if we can just chunk it down, in Australia, we've got, to answer your question, we have exactly the same situation as you guys. We have people who are in denial, which is first stage. We have people who are in absolute fear and lockdown and frozen, which is the worst place that you can get to. So the thing that we know and we must deal with all the time is where are we? What's the truth? Is what's in our control? What's outside our control? What's the fear that we have? What's the worst thing that can happen, and how can we manage that and mitigate it? And what's really going on? Because when we know where we are, we can then make a plan about where to go to get to where we want to go. But if I think I'm in London, but I'm actually in Manchester, and I want to go to Scotland, I'm going to have two different maps out, right? So I'm going to end up in different places. So we really need to know where we are and then plan from there. And the similarities in anybody's life, whether they live in the UK or Europe or Australia or US, we're having the same conversations weekly. It's about how do we get the truth? How do we get the facts out of this situation? Because there's a lot of hysteria and a lot of emotion being thrown in with facts.
It's very, very much what I'm seeing in the UK as well. It's like people, as you said, people allowing emotion to run the show. I call it chimp brain. There's an excellent book by Steve Peters called The Chimp Paradox, which talks about this limbic brain, the fight, flight, and freeze adrenaline response. And as you said, just helping people to avoid making decisions from that space, because generally, at best it's going to be suboptimal, and at worst it could be catastrophic. And it is, again, going back to the fitness piece, I'm encouraging people to create dashboards, it's like driving a car. There's certain dials you need to be looking at. And again, most people in a thriving economy don't really have a handle on what's going on in their business, their dashboard. And so one of the first things that I'm working on with them is just to say, right, okay, as you said, where are you honestly at? Because it's like, don't be in denial, as you said. Look, that's early stage grief is, and that people are going through a grief cycle right now. Early stage grief is denial. It's like, it's fine. It's only a flu bug. It will be gone in a couple of weeks type thing. And then a lot of people go into anger and frustration because they can't do what they normally did. And then you said people then capitulate and go into the freezing state. So I'm very aware of working with business owners to go, right, now, honestly, where are you at? Like, don't make it better than it is. Don't make it worse than it is. Honestly, where you're at. Then there's, as you said, there's a massive amount of reassurance in knowing, right, okay, this is what it looks like. Realistically, that now from this space where we're calmer and we've got our numbers, let's actually then start to do some projections. The worst case scenario is this. Okay, so therefore, if that happens, I'm not going to project it happening, but if that happens, I have a plan for minimizing impact on my company and my employees. Expected scenario would be another one. And then, okay, what if it actually ends up being better than I think it's going to be? What would I do then as well? And that amount of certainty and structure, as you referred to, then enables them to make high quality decisions. And I think it was Keith as well. I think I've heard it from a couple of sources, Keith Cunningham and also Steve Linder, is having that kind of what I call multiple paths to success. So you know what your outcome is. Your outcome is to have a thriving business and serving these customers in a way that maybe you've started to redefine and reassess. But you commit to one way, but you've got plan A, B, C, D, E. In case your original plan wasn't valid or there's some challenges with it. So, it's very much aligned. It's interesting that, obviously we've both got similar backgrounds in terms of mentors and influences that we've had. And we've just got quite interesting business backgrounds, but similar themes coming through in what we're seeing.
Look, everything you're saying is absolutely right. And if we were to compare clients, there's a pattern, as a consistency amongst all the people who we're talking to at the moment. And the consistent thing is of how do I keep going? because what I've been doing has got me this far, and now I need to do something differently because what I'm doing is not working. Yeah. And it comes back to whatever you have done, what it does make you successful to the point you're at, has worked well. What else do we need to do? Or what other things can we do to go to the next level? And if you've got a business that's in Australia, we've had our gyms and bars, clubs, restaurants, coffee shops all closed down. Now, so the coffee shops and the restaurants immediately went to takeaway only, so they could manage. They didn't need wait staff, but they needed their chefs. They needed their the management to keep the stock going, to keep the business running. The food suppliers have suffered diminished demand, so they're laying people off. The delivery trucks are not as busy. It goes right backwards down the chain. So it's important that everyone does their bit to keep their business going, as well as keep the line of supply going, because it has a ripple effect. It's forced wholesalers who would normally just supply restaurants to go public, and just because they've got stock and volume. Now, when you're in the line of supply, for a wholesaler to go public is a no-no, because you're taking away the opportunity of your end customer, who is your regular user, to check. You're eating into their supply market. If they've lost that supply market, you need to pick it up if you're the wholesaler. If you're a gym owner, you now can't have people to your gym. So how do you do your class? There's a number of options, and people have different options. Most people know the answer to this. Then there is and we've just had a new law in Australia, like you have now in the UK, or you've had before us actually. No public meetings, no public gatherings. So the indoor gym, outdoor gym scenario worked for a week, and now it's online. So adapt, and if well, how do I keep value for my customer when I'm doing it online? It's still exercise. It's still the community. It's still involvement. And when this is all over, it'll go back to normal, and we'll actually know each other better and feel stronger about it. So there's lots of scenarios. The people who, I don't know what Airbnb's like in the UK, but here it's a very big market, especially in the Gold Coast where I live, where it's a tourism. We survive on tourism, and that's all been shut down. So there's hundreds of houses that were booked up every week for accommodation, and we've got this wonderful system now where you're not allowed to cross the border. So people are coming away for their holiday, and they can't enter the state to take their booking. So Airbnb have refunded everybody who booked, regardless, and the owners are now got homes empty. So what do? One of the options that's come up for that is they can go short-term rental pool because it's furnished. People are in between. People losing their jobs. They may lose their homes, and they need somewhere temporary. You have long-term rental pool, which is a different market again. And there is this new market that's popped up that wasn't foreseen, which is the quarantine. We have a 14-day quarantine period for people who have been diagnosed with the virus. Now, some people are living in an environment where they can't be at home, so they need to go elsewhere. And these homes are becoming great respite or quarantine centres for those people. So there's always something else there if we're looking for it. But if we're in a state of emotion, we don't always see it.
100%. It's an interesting one. Just picking up on some of the points from the UK side is very much on the restaurant sort of wholesaler supply chain is very much similar things. So restaurants shut down, so they go, okay, let's go takeaway. Obviously, that presents two opportunities. One of which is like, yes, you get to connect with your customers. In the UK, we're sat at home. It's very hard to get online delivery slots. Like, I'm a high risk, technically high risk group, even though I'm reasonably fit and healthy. I'm a diabetic, so I'm like, I'd rather not go to supermarkets. So actually, restaurants doing takeaway is actually massively beneficial for me. And when things start to improve, some restaurants may decide, look, I can run my main business, which was the business they thought they were in, was I run a restaurant. The business you're really in is you're supplying high quality food to your customers. So it could then end up being a combination of restaurant and takeaway, or some of them might even decide, actually, do you know what, I'm making more money from takeaway doing it that. I don't need a big premises anymore. So let me just focus on takeaway all the time. So again, It reminds me of Keith's question again, which is, what don't I see? So if you keep on asking that question,
great question.
You'll start to see opportunities. And I love what you were talking about, just being aware of that supply chain. So as you said, wholesalers, I think, took a little while to adjust because they're thinking, well, people still need food. But then, as you said, some of their outlets, the restaurants, are suffering. So they're not going to be able to do that anymore, go through that particular outlet that way. So having a communication up and down your chain to make sure, see where everyone's at. If you can get information early, you can adapt and adjust more quickly. The gyms was an interesting one. So I've got a number of clients who are in similar businesses that they would normally deliver their service or product physically. So I've got a gym owner. I've got someone who's a DJ in nightclubs.
Yep.
I've got someone else that normally runs live seminars, and all of them have gone, okay, what can we do? So it was like, okay, initially it was, as you said, outdoor gym was the first place. Let's do it somewhere else where we can do it. The DJ was like, oh, could we do smaller gatherings because it was limited to a certain number? Seminar, something similar. And then again, it changed again in the UK. So then it was like, right, so gym guys have gone, okay, we've got to go online now. Now, they've been thinking about that for ages. And I said to them, look, you've got tons of people online right now. This is where you've got to be excellent, because it's like, what is your unique selling point? You know, what's the business? You're a gym owner, which is your business, but the business you're really in might be, you might have a particular demographic. It might be stay-at-home mums that want to get back in shape after having their baby or something like that, for example. Target them. A guy called Joe Wicks in the UK has gone global because he's doing this free stuff on YouTube, building a massive brand through service.
Mm-hmm.
And I said to the gym owners, look, you've got an opportunity here. Communicate with your landlord. Make sure that, again, you talked about passing things up the stream, making sure that everyone's able to help each other out a little bit and see how that can work. But I said, you've got an amazing opportunity. A lot of this particular gym owner didn't have a massive facility, so the number of memberships they could sell previously was limited by the space they had. And now, if they can build an online piece, they've suddenly taken the cap off their business. So that actually, they're really now excited. It's like, their income's not what it was prior to this, but it's slowly building. And they could have an opportunity to create something that was way bigger than they had before through necessity. So, DJ, similar thing, products, recording music, putting out USB sticks with music on it, pivoting. We've been working together prior to that, so he was already in that multiple streams of income mindset. Seminar guy, big costs hiring rooms every year, and now he's gone, okay, let me see how online seminars work. Let me do online seminars. Let me offer recordings of that, higher value. You don't normally get a recording of a live seminar. Let me do follow-up coaching with it. So it's all, it's seeing the opportunity, as you said, Simon. I think it's for those that are able to get out of the emotional space, as you said, and able to make quality decisions. They can ask that "what don't I see" question and keep asking it and get some good answers.
Yep. Totally agree. And in what you've just described is a way of going online is actually exposing yourself to more people, so that when things do return to normal, you may have a bigger pool of people to draw back into your gym, into your nightclub, into your business. So it's an opportunity, and it's a time for giving now. Anyway, there's so many people who are taking a hit, and that's again the purpose of why we're having a chat, is to share the resource, make it open to as many people are interested to have a listen. Hope we're keeping it as tight and relevant. Don't know about that. And just to offer the opportunity that there is help. First of all, there's Rich and I, and there's many others, and also there's hope. And our good friend Tony Robbins says that faith, not really just faith in humanity, faith in the human spirit, faith that we will get through this will take away a lot of the fear. And if we focus on where we're going to be rather than where we could be, but where we're going to be, because we are making moves, it is working, we are getting towards the result that we're looking for. and focus on the outcome and stay positive.
Yeah. Couldn't agree more, Simon. It's like, I believe it was a quote from Joseph McClendon III, who's obviously a good friend of Tony Robbins, one of his main speakers. And it was, don't underestimate the seriousness of the situation you're in or your ability to solve it. So it's like, don't be blasé, don't stick your head in the sand. See it how it is, see the challenges it is, and then, like, what I do know about human beings is, particularly in times of stress and pressure like now, is we are incredibly resourceful. And if you do need to, and particularly for us guys, is getting outside of ego and going, actually, do you know what, these are unprecedented times. Me having a conversation with someone outside of my business might help me to see stuff that I can't currently see. And, you know, as a coach myself, I put ego aside many years ago, and I go, I've got coaches and mentors myself, talk to them all the time. I freely admit to my challenges, failings, thoughts, everything. And it's just useful to bounce stuff off people. And you'll see the ones that really care at this point in time, because again, in a thriving economy, people that take what I call more a transactional approach, in other words, they're kind of in business for themselves, and they want to sell you stuff so they can make money and thrive and have a great existence.
It's not the right time for that. This is the time for help. And and as you said about the question, what don't I see? The best way to know what you don't see is to ask a question of somebody else. Take the free advice, take the offer, as long as it's not sales based. Just the answers are in the questions. You ask a quality question, you get a quality answer. And that's what it's about now. It's just questioning. What am I doing? What can I do? What could I do? What's the right thing to do? And just keep asking questions, because the questions will create the mindset, will create the momentum, because we get confidence when we have a strategy. Look, you've heard the 3 S's, the state, story, strategy. Right now, we've got a story that's being fed to us that it's doom and gloom, or that it's great. Which one do you want to believe? Okay. There's a strategy around that. You can have a strategy for buckling down for the end of the world, or you can have a strategy for how you're going to come out the other side. And you've got to be in state. And the state is, if I'm in fear, I'm not going to have the right state to make the decisions to see the opportunity. So it's all about managing our mind. And I love the saying that Tony Robbins has posted recently, to stand guard at the door of your mind, because there is so much stuff that's going to go in here. Be careful what you let in. The news is feeding us stuff. News is great when it's factual.
Yes.
But it's not all. Sometimes it's just filling space. There's a lot of stories. There's a lot of conjecture. There's a lot of hyperbole. It's not always fact. And it's sensationalism. What sells is sensationalism. Why would I watch my story? It's better than the other one. Okay. I'm going on, but look, seriously, our drive, our passion is to help people, and I think that if we could just give some people, say, 3 to 5 points of what they personally could do, not in business, and then we might be able to just give some business owners just a summary of 3 tips.
I think that's a great idea. So let me come up with my first one would be be aware of what you are taking in, both externally and internally. So be very, very deliberate about. You need to be aware of what's happening, but literally that should be a minimal. Like, what's the minimum amount of external news I need to digest to understand what is going on? And then internally, be aware of, how are you using your body? Like, how you hold yourself will impact your emotional state. Be aware of what you are picturing in your head in terms of outcomes, and deliberately choose to paint a positive story, because there is no. The solution cannot be everyone just shuts down and freezes, because that we don't have any economy then at all. That doesn't work. So you've got to choose to make pictures here. Be careful about what you're saying. What questions are you asking yourself in your head?
Yes.
And then make sure you're hydrating and eating properly. So that is that first piece of being aware of external and internal influences that are impacting your emotions. What would you think about on the personal side, Simon? What else comes up?
Personal side, I agree with you. It's how we shop. Get a routine. At the moment, if if you're not going to work on a regular basis, get a routine. So you're doing something every day. It's no value. You can't move forward if you don't continue with an active mind. So discipline now. Home exercise. You've got more chance to exercise. So take some time. Have some sunshine if that's possible. Do some movement. Movies, mixture. Everything's a balance. Okay. If you're going to watch binge movie, fine, but do it in balance. Books. Be careful what you put in here. And we can be distracted at this time, or we can plan. Now is an opportunity to move towards a goal rather than away from something. If we can move away from the pain, or we can move towards an outcome. That's it. And when it comes to specifically to what we do here, it's got to be moving towards. What's inside our control, what's outside our control. Focus on what's inside our control. Take away the fear. Deal with the facts, and let's decide. Make a decision. Talk to people, discuss with people what options, what you're thinking about. If you don't know how to, we start with too often we start with the how instead of the why. I don't know how to do it, so I won't do it. There's opportunity here to do things you've never thought, that you've thought about doing, never had the time to do. Now's an opportunity to have a go.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, I think there's another point there. Something I've worked with clients for years, but I think is even more relevant now is, like, just make a list of stuff that makes you happy and have that list visible. So, what is your menu of joy, excitement, gratitude, fulfillment, and look at the things that you can do now. I guarantee you that most of the things that would appear on that list are still in your control to do that. It might be reaching out to a loved one. It might say you might be exercising. It might be having high quality nutrition, hydration. It might be watching a favorite movie, as you said. But it's like having a very deliberate recipe that then consistently generates some really high quality emotions for you. That would be another tip that I would give, is just map that out a bit more, because your brain is has got a potential to overwork in this current state. So if you've just got a reference point, stick it on a wall, stick it on your fridge, wherever. That's your recipe for success, and just so make it easy for yourself as well on that one. Yeah.
Well, routine gives certainty, right?
Yeah.
So we're in a state of uncertainty. So we can create certainty by doing things that are within our control and doing routine. Now, for business, look, I'm sorry, we keep saying like a Keith Cunningham and Tony Robbins program, but both of those guys have got great attitude to business. And Tony says, keep doing what you're doing, and you're guaranteed to get what you've always got. So if you want a different result, you've got to change what you do. Keith says, look for the low-hanging fruit. So when we're busy all the time, when we've been doing our doing and not being who we are, and not focusing on the core of why we are here, what we're doing, of coming back again to purpose of business. But there's lots of low-hanging fruit. There's things that we've left on the ground for a long time because the times have been good, and we've been focusing on what's next. There's things we could tidy up, opportunities we may be able to revisit, and that is actually where our business began, or were important to our business at the beginning. And here's an opportunity just to go back to basics, find why, what built your business, and identify again how you can rebuild, because this is a time for reset, restart.
Yeah, 100%. And the kind of related to that is, we talked about earlier on, is leaving ego at the door. So if you're struggling right now, or you're not sure where to go, you know what, you are not your business. If your business is not working right now, it's not because you're not working. It might be, again, you're in a bit of an emotional state. But one of the things that I've deliberately done throughout my life is sort out high quality mentors and coaches, just to have someone to bounce something off. And just tell a quick story. It's like my son's just was traveling around the world. He's come back. He actually bought a business, a tree surgery business, so going down cutting hedges and trees and stuff. And that's quietened down a little bit. But he's always asking, we're always talking about his business. He doesn't have any ego around his business either. He's like, thinking about doing this, Dad, or this or that. And then he had bounced this idea off me, which was that all the local councils here, normally every 2 weeks, typically, they'll collect all your garden waste, all your lawn clippings, hedge trimmings and things like that. And they stopped. They said, no, we're not doing that. We've got to prioritise elsewhere. My son's looking at it going, I've got this big tipper truck that I can drive around. I've got some land where I'm dumping my existing vegetation, then selling some of it to a biofuel company. Let me offer a service to go around and collect all this waste off people because they've got bins filling up and don't know what to do with it. And not only is he making money from it, all his people in the community think he's wonderful because he's helping people out of pain. So that really only came about. It was his idea, but it came about from him being able to step back and go, I'm just going to talk to my dad about my business, and I'm not going to be protective about the fact that it's my business and I want to succeed by myself. There are no medals for I did it by myself. In fact, there is a medal. It's a stupidity medal. And it might sound a bit harsh, but it's like, do you know what? All those successful businessmen that I know have someone they can bounce stuff off, even if it's just an informal conversation. So that relates back to a point you made earlier on.
Yeah. Well, look, it's not a plug; it's a fact. If you don't have a coach or a mentor, someone to bounce things off, then it's a great idea in your mind. It's a better idea when you bounce it around, workshop it, get the tweaks. You can get to your result much faster. You'll get there anyway, but you can get there much faster with less mistakes if you just talk to the right people and have a chat. Right now, it's just a free offer. If you want to chat, make an appointment, and we can have a short discussion with you individually about what it is that's your challenges. It's simple, it's quick. 20-30 minutes is the average to knock the problem on the head. As long as we don't get stuck in the story and we deal with the facts, we can do something. There's a strategy there, and we can knock it over in 20-30 minutes.
Yeah, smack on. Couldn't agree with that more. Yeah, so look for the people that are going to serve you right now, and make sure you're in service. But there are people out there that genuinely want to serve you unconditionally. And take advantage of as Simon said, take advantage of the knowledge and the skills out there, and let's work together to create a solution for not only you and your business, but also the wider economy. I think we all have a responsibility to that. So let's cooperate
and your personal life as well, because if we're strong, we can be strong for our families, right?
Yeah. It's very true. It's like there's a ripple effect there, which is if you're strong. You can hold the family unit together. Then that influences their friends and families that they're talking to on social media and all these other different forms. Yes. And so we have a positive ripple go out wider than us.
And that the overused example of in an emergency, fit your oxygen mask first, then help others, because that's what we're about. We're about helping you get yourself right, and from there you can help others, including your staff, your friends, your family, and your loved ones.
100%. I know we could talk all day, my friend, and maybe we'll do some more videos like this because I've enjoyed this so much. But obviously, we're aware that people like to digest in bite-sized chunks these days.
It's way too long.
Anyway,
we might have to break this into 3 segments.
We'll have some core segments going on. But anyway, those that have listened to the end, thank you very much. Reach out. Obviously, Simon's based down under. I'm UK end, and let's see what
we're here online.
we can service anywhere, right? Time zones. We can do it. Good stuff. All right, thank you, my friend, for your time today, and thanks for all your words of wisdom. Cheers.
As always, great to talk to you. Bye, mate.
Cheers, mate. Bye now.
Bye.